If you're in pain and you go to the doctor, you're seeking an answer. You want to know the source of the pain, but you also want some relief. The doctor might do some physical exams. He might have you go for an x-ray or an MRI to try to find out the source of the problem why you're having the pain. If you're over 50, you might have some degeneration. You might have osteoarthritis, which is a condition that really cannot be cured, but there are treatments for it. But in the meantime, your doctor's probably going to give you something to make you comfortable, to take care of your symptoms, to reduce the pain. And the pain is a manifestation of an underlying problem. There is a significant underlying problem in churches and ministries, which is resulting in a manifestation that I'm calling the silence of God's lambs, of his people. In this video, I'm not going to address the underlying problem. I'm going to address the manifestation of the problem. I'm going to try to break it down as best I can. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future, I'm not going to address the underlying problem. I know that in my videos, I do touch on it, but perhaps a dedicated video would be helpful. I think it's very much multifactorial. If you are new here, on this channel, I talk about the abuse and cover-up of abuse that's going on in churches and ministries. And I have spent a considerable amount of time since I've been on this platform speaking to victims, witnesses, and whistleblowers. So much so that it's way more than I do a video, that the time that it entails. And I'm not saying that that is not what I want to do. I actually encourage it. I encourage victims to come forward and speak to me if they wish to. And more often than not, they want to share, but they do not want to go on record. They do not want me repeating it. And it's because they have been scared into silence. So that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the silencing of God's people, the silencing of God's lambs. And why are they being silenced? Again, I think it's multifactorial. I think that it's a deep-seated issue, a deep-seated problem. I think that it's been going on for decades. And this is the manifestation of it. The consequences of the bad acts, the bad decisions, the bad people who have done this. They've done the silencing of the victims. So being on this platform for the last 11 months, based on what I've seen by doing these videos, having people contact me, I believe that what's been happening, and that continues to happen, and I'm sure that we're going to continue to see it, where these victims are silenced, it's an absolute atrocity. And I want to bring attention to it. So that's the point of this video. So first off, I want to remind people, if you are a victim of a crime, do not go to your church. If the crime was committed by somebody in the church, a church leader, go to the police. Make a report. Talk to a detective, a prosecutor. They'll set you up, or a victim's advocate. When you make a police report and you're a victim, they should be setting you up with a victim's advocate. Do not go to your church leader. Do not go to another church member. Do not even go to a family member who's associated with that church. You just do not know where their loyalties lie. So this is something I'm ranking here that I'm going to talk about. And this is based upon, first off, if you already know me, great. You know that I used to be a prosecutor and I specialized in sex crimes against children in Detroit. But if you don't know that, you do now, if you're new here. But based upon my experience there, and then generally as an attorney, and then based on my experience being on this platform for the last 11 months, the majority of victims and witnesses and whistleblowers, they do not come forward for, basically, I can categorize it in 3 reasons, and I'm ranking them here. The first one is the fear of being sued, so legal consequences. If what you are sharing is your experience, what you are sharing is true, You can share it. It's true. It happened to you. It's your personal experience. You can also share and disclose your personal opinions. You hear me say that all the time on this channel. I say, it is my opinion that based upon the evidence or based upon this, I conclude this. This is my impression based on that. You can absolutely do that. You have a basis in which to form your opinion. And I cannot tell you how many times I'm talking to somebody, and it's even with podcasters too. It's victims, it's whistleblowers, uh, even podcasters, they tell me, "Oh, I'm being sued." And I'm asking them questions, come to find out they're not being sued. They just received a cease and desist letter. That is not a lawsuit. So it's just a piece of paper. And sometimes it's just a tactic by a person or a group or a company that want to shut you up. And that's all it is. Because typically, if there really is something of interest that they want you to retract, they'll ask you to retract it. And if you don't, well, then the next step should be a lawsuit. But that never comes. I haven't seen one yet. I take that back. Robin from Mega Maniacs, I think she's the only one I've seen who has actually been sued. But typically, it just doesn't happen. And again, truth is a defense to defamation. The second thing that I see as a reason, and it's really a close second to the first, it's fear of being harassed. And this is quite nuanced. It's quite disturbing, especially in the context of these organizations that we're talking about that claim to be churches and ministries, right? Christian ones. So quite often I hear that people, they tell me that they were abused or essayed by a church leader, and then they went to the church leader to report, well, to another leader, somebody else, to report what somebody else did to them. And then now they're targeted as an enemy, not only of the entire church leadership, the entire church, but also the congregation, simply because they came forward and disclosed something that was wrongly done to them. That could even be a crime. It's very disturbing. And they become marked as an enemy of the church, like enemy of the state, right? They're the enemy of the church. And it gets into cultish tactics, which I'm not going to get into here. Again, another subject for another day. But in an effort to just simplify it, the leader is marking, right? Putting a target on that person, identifying that person, not only to avoid that person, but they even go so far as to essentially give license to harass that person, intimidate that person, threaten that person, stalk that person. We've seen it. I'm going to just talk about this because I don't think I ever talked about this on this channel. Remember back in the day, Daystar and Jonathan Lamb talking about, both Jonathan and Susie talking about being followed by an investigator. And I don't know why I've never talked about this before because it was so ridiculous. The investigator in the purple car. Okay, so in my area of law, I deal with investigators all the time. I have for decades. Private investigators, police, all of it. I promise you that a professional investigator is not tailing somebody that they intend on being covert in a purple car. So, in my opinion, that was done intentionally to make sure that they knew that they were being followed. A tactic of intimidation and harassment, in my opinion. There's no investigator that does that. I'm not even going to share with you what they do, but they don't do that. It's so laughable. So also what they do to harass is they share personal information that they've gathered of this person because of the relationship in the church, right? And then they'll use it to against them. They'll use it against them, objectify them, humiliate them. They'll disseminate it throughout the church, but even more so, perhaps even on social media. Maybe they call Child and Family Services and allege a false report. I've seen that too. Maybe they call the police and allege that this person is stalking them, doing exactly what they're doing. I've seen that as well too. Maybe they call the person's employer or family members or just other people that they know and make up stories about them. I've seen that as well. All coming from people who claim to be Christian. A third reason that they might not disclose. They don't want their family or friends or coworkers to know what happened. And that is an element of shame that these people use. So what do we do at this point? Well, number one, avoid these types of churches altogether. Right? I was looking at my notes. I thought there was something else I wanted to say, but I'm getting close to the end. You want to avoid them. That's why we're here, identifying the ones that are dangerous. If you find that there's any credible evidence in a church that you go to, that you follow, where there's somebody who has brought up the fact that they were harmed and the church either takes no action or takes action to actually cover it up, well, then it's up to you to decide whether you're going to be a part of that church. That's up to you. And this is why there are hundreds, if not thousands, of podcasters who are talking about this subject. Yesterday, I did 2 different tapings with Josh Harris. He's a pastor, but he has such an amazing understanding of the Bible and its interpretation. And he said this yesterday on one of the tapings that we did. I can't remember if it was the first or the second. And he said that, podcasters like myself, if I was to decide to take down my channel, there would probably be tons of podcasters coming up behind me to do the same thing. And I would have to agree, because all of this, what we're seeing, is by the hand of God. We're here because we are in support of survivors, in support of people who have been abused, who have been victimized, who are being silenced, massively silenced. Make no mistake, that is what's going on. A massive silence of God's people, of God's lambs. And it needs attention. And that's why I'm dedicating this particular video to that. It's been on my heart for some time, and I just felt led to do this. So I do believe that even if I were to, and I won't, I have no intention of going anywhere, but even if I did stop what I was doing, there would be more talking about it. And this argument, this is such a fallacy, this argument, because I've seen it in comments on my videos, and I've seen it in comments of other podcasters on their channels. They like to say, "Who are you? And what have you done for the body of Christ?" And they say that person, like, let's take Benny Hinn. Okay, this person should not be a leader in any church, even one of 2 people or negative 2 people, whatever it is. He should not be a leader. And they say, these people have led so many people to Christ. How do you know? You're listening to somebody that may not have any credibility, first off, but you are willing to give that person a pass. And now I'm not talking about Benny Hinn. I'm just talking about anybody in general. You're willing to give somebody that's been accused of perhaps a crime, SA, or any type of immorality or any type of abuse. You want to give them a pass simply because they're a pastor, a leader in a church. You want to give them a pass from being criminally prosecuted. So let's go into the prison system then, okay? And let's take a poll. Let's find out how many of these people who have been convicted, criminally convicted of a crime, did they ever do anything good in their life? I would say that they probably have. Maybe they gave money to a widow. Maybe they gave a homeless person a meal or a shirt, allowed somebody to stay with them when they didn't have a place to stay. So based upon your logic, those people should all be released from prison. I think you probably voted that mayor into New York. Probably. Same concept. So beware of this argument, because a lot of the people who think that they're conservative and Trump followers, they're making it, but you know, it's very problematic. At the heart of it, though, we're dealing with people with seared hearts and minds. If they're not yet fully seared, perhaps some of them can be saved, but I think that some just cannot. And at the end of the day, anyone who's coming up against a victim, you have to evaluate why they're doing that. Again, we're not going to get into the underbelly of it, but you do have to make a decision as to where you stand on the matter, because ultimately that's a heart posture, and that's going to be something that Jesus addresses. You're not going to be able to, well, my pastor said this, that this is really what happened. No, we all have to make those decisions. Another issue that we're seeing that can be harmful to survivors is when other leaders who claim to be Christians, they publicly support the offending leader. We see that time and time again, all the lunatics supporting Michael Brown, Mike Bickle. You've got your Rick Joyners, right? Anybody supporting Art Lucier, and you have to have significant screws loose. What's the explanation? Well, there's the underbelly. Remember, I said that it's multifactorial. And I think at the heart of the matter is money. That's one of the issues. But so we've seen people like this, also Patricia King, Jeremiah Johnson, essentially anyone associated with this lovely Kingdom Accountability Project, or KAP. One of their goals is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty, due process, and fairness for accused individuals. So as an attorney, as somebody that I like to believe I have some common sense, this is disturbing, considering it does not address fairness, process of handling of victims, process of advocating for victims in any way. I didn't see any of that. If there is, then please point it out to me and share that excerpt. But that's not what I saw when I just saw an outline of it. It's disturbing also that they're using legal terms such as innocent until proven guilty, which has zero relevance in everyday life and in something like that. That's a term that you use in court and due process also. Common sense, rather, should dictate here. If you're a leader of a church or any type of authority of a church, shouldn't it be self-evident or common sense that when a person comes to you with an allegation of abuse, that the first thing you do is you tell them to go to the police? That's the very least you can do. But, if you're a corrupt leader, maybe just don't go with them and don't tell, so that your buddies don't get mad at you. But if you're a real Christian leader, again, I would expect, if common sense and logic were to dictate, that you will handle this person who comes to you with such an allegation with care, with dignity, with love, and that you will not require that person to confront the one who abused them, that you will not re-victimize this person by exploiting them. And so here's a disturbing story that fits along the lines of manifestation of the twisted thought processes of these alleged Christian leaders. Have you heard of Mother Moon or Mother Han from Korea? She's been indicted in Korea for charges that include political bribery, illegal political donations, embezzlement, destruction of evidence. It's alleged that she gave luxury gifts to the former First Lady in Korea in 2022 in exchange for favorable treatment for her church. She's also accused of paying money to a lawmaker in South Korea for political favors and using those funds, the donations from the church. And if you want to hear all about that, there's an expert on the subject, Susan Puzio. She has a YouTube channel. It's called Prophetic News TV, and I'm going to link her channel. If you want to hear about it, she talks all about it, and she's an expert on Paula White as well, who bows down to Mother Moon. What is disturbing to me is that there are U.S. leaders and leaders who claim to be Christian who are in support of Mother Moon, claiming that she's being wrongly prosecuted and alleging that such prosecution is a danger to religious liberty. Mike Pompeo, a former U.S. Secretary of State, has publicly criticized the prosecution, claiming that it could amount to an assault on religious freedom. Newt Gingrich placed an ad in South Korean media calling for the release of Mother Moon, claiming that her detention threatens religious liberty and democratic values. I think it was yesterday or today, I can't remember, Susan Puzio released a video about Pastor Greg Locke, who traveled to South Korea on behalf of Mother Moon to attend an event that precedes her trial. It appears that these individuals who are supporting her and claiming that she is being persecuted for her religion, maybe they don't know or realize what she's being prosecuted for, that it's not protected by religion, but I suspect that they do. In other words, it would be absurd to state that a religious leader, and I'm talking about any religion because I do not believe that Mother Moon is a Christian. All the evidence suggests otherwise. So I don't believe that any religious leader, for that matter, say, for instance, they commit essay against their child. I don't believe that just because they're a religious leader that they shouldn't be criminally prosecuted because they have the argument that they have the right to bring up the child in the way they want the child brought up, and they have the right to do to their child anything they want because their religion dictates such. That's absurd. That's an absurd argument. In what circumstance are we to believe that bribery, embezzlement, or any crime alleged to have been committed by someone who just happens to run a religious organization should be shielded from prosecution simply because they're involved in the religion business? Absurd. Just because you're an alleged religious leader does not mean that the persecution or prosecution against you is based on religion. It could be based on your bad acts, period. So what can we do when it comes to victims who are being silenced as a group, as a community here? Well, we can pray. We can listen to those who need to be heard. Again, I appreciate this community. I really do. Not only do I learn so much from you all, those of you who comment, but you also share your hearts for people, for survivors, when you do share your stories and you talk to each other. And speaking up is liberating. So I want to encourage those who are currently living in silence. We love you. We support you. We want you to know that we are here for you. And I'm not saying that you must proclaim what happened to you to the world. It's baby steps, and I understand that. Every single one of you are in varying degrees of going through what you went through and getting the help that you need and of healing. All of you. And every single person is unique. So every way that you need to get the healing, every way that you need the encouragement, it's going to be unique to you. But I would suggest, first off, speak to somebody you trust. It doesn't have to be a counselor, but it can be. And if there are survivors out there who do want to speak to me, whether you want to speak publicly or not, I'm willing to speak to you. You can reach me at vjohnson@77alpha.com, and I'll leave my email in the description box. Okay, so what's coming? So next week, there's a special that it's going to be on my channel. It's going to be with John T. and Elizabeth Davis. And we are going to do this next Sunday. So a week from today, we're going to have a video coming out together. That's a special. And then 2 days later, so over a week from now, I think it's December 16th, I will be live with John T. And he just did an amazing video. I talked about it in a couple of videos ago, and I linked his video where he did an analysis on the police interview with JW and Rebecca Wise, and it was excellent. It's really good. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. But we're going to be just doing a live video about Daystar and those interviews, and it's going to be live to take questions so that we can answer any questions. And so one other thing that's I'm probably going to have to do a quick update this week because I'm waiting for it. This is something that's not out yet, but it's an update on the David E. Taylor matter. It actually involves Michelle Brannon. If you've been following that, you know that she received a $10,000 bond and she had significant conditions. My understanding is that she might be coming up in court. That's all I'll say. Let's wait and see. So I'm not going to say anything other than stay tuned for an update in regard to Michelle Brannon. So there was I'll just say this. It has to do with her bond. I heard that she's in U.S. Marshal's custody. What that means? Well, to me, that means she probably violated, but I haven't been able to confirm. So that's why I said, let's wait. But we do know she's in custody. That's what I hear. Let's see what happens. I always have to wait and see what comes out on the court docket. So stay tuned for that. There are things coming. And another thing about Patricia King that there was a video that I wanted to address. It got taken down. But if you have any videos of Patricia King, Jeremiah Johnson, and Joseph Z, those are people that Joseph Z, I haven't been able to do anything yet, but I do want to. There's a lot, and I know. But if you want to send it to me, send it to my email. Don't just cut it. I need to see the whole video so it's not taken out of context. So, all right. I hope y'all are doing well. It's freezing here now in Florida. It was so nice yesterday, and then it's like so dreary and rainy and cold. Weird, but that's Florida weather for you. All right. Talk to you guys soon.